day.
Hi, good day. It's Faith from University of Mindanao, and today we are going to discuss dyadic communication. Dyadic communication is the process of sending messages between two participants who play the role of a sender and a receiver. It may be spoken and it may be also written. And there are three kinds of dyadic communication. These are conversation, dialogue, and interview.
Girls seem to like the boys that don't appreciate all the money and the time that it takes to be fly as a mother.
A conversation is an informal, dyadic face-to-face communication using verbal and nonverbal symbols.
Guidelines for a good conversation. To be a good conversationalist is not a tall order. You only need awareness of others and of yourself. First, awareness of others. Observe the 1-minute rule. Do not talk too much, too often, and too long. Be aware of others who are waiting for their turn to talk. Seek topics of mutual interest. You will have a lively conversation if both of you are interested in the topic. Initially, a topic of common interest may be hard to find, but somehow, somewhere, a common area of interest will spring. Listen to what the other person has to say. Listening is as important as speaking. If no one listens, what will happen to the communication process? Ask questions. Asking questions is one way of gauging if you are listening and are interested in what the other person is saying. This may, in turn, encourage the speaker to go on.
Got my both eyes out for Mr. Right. Guessing I just don't know where to find them, but I hope they all come out tonight.
The second guideline is awareness of self. In this guideline, you have to be tactful and courteous. Avoid bodily gestures that would show lack of interest. A yawn, a faraway blank look, a total silence, constantly looking at your timepiece, and a remark or question that is totally out of the topic are signs of lack of interest that amount to discourtesy and lack of tact. Secondly, is to express sincere compliments. Sincere compliments beget goodwill and favorable attitude that would lead to a smooth, enjoyable conversation. So in this awareness of self, you don't have to step on somebody's toes. Avoid thoughtless remarks that hurt, provoke, or degrade someone or nasty jokes at the expense of somebody else. These are stumbling blocks to effective conversation. And the last one is do not argue. If the topic you happen to touch is controversial, try something neutral or not controversial.
Where do the good boys go to hide away, hide away? I'm a good girl who needs a little company.
The second topic that will be discussed is dialogue. A dialogue is another form of dyadic communication involving two active participants or two groups interacting alternately in a face-to-face encounter as sender and receiver of the message.
I'm going to discuss the guidelines for a dialogue. Collins suggests these 5 problem-solving steps when planning a dialogue to ensure unity and cohesion. So Collins suggests these 5 problem-solving steps for a guidelines for a dialogue. First is identify the problem. Participants must not only agree that there is a problem but also know what the problem is or what is the main idea or what is the problem is all about. And also state the problem clearly and define terms to avoid any misunderstanding. Now, the second guidelines is analyze the problem. Instruct participants to ask questions about the problem. We need to include these questions. How long has it been? What was the cause? What steps have been taken to solve it? So it is important to analyze the problem. The third one is generate creative solution. So, brainstorm for solutions individually or by groups. Accept all ideas, relevant or irrelevant. Afterwards, select only the workable solutions. Fourth one is select the best solution. Rank or rate the solutions. Agree on the ranking or rating. And if, by vote, the majority wins. By consensus, all must agree, or by decision of an expert, all agrees. The last guidelines for a dialogue is take action. Ask, will this work? Try out the solution. If it's successful, adopt it. If a failure, go back to step 1.
Looking high and low, someone let me know, where do the good boys go to hide away, hide away?
Next topic is interview, a form of dyadic communication. An interview is dyadic communication involving two parties, the interviewer and the interviewee, for the purpose of gathering information. The success or failure of interview lies on both interviewer and interviewee. The interviewer decides on what data to gather, and the interviewee supplies the data.
Guidelines for conducting an interview. The interviewer. A skillful interviewer plans his own interview carefully and takes into consideration the following. First, the interview should have a definite purpose. Second, the interview questions should suit the purpose of the interview and the interviewee's personality and status. Third, the interviewee's convenience and comfort should be taken into consideration in setting the time and the place of the interview. Fourth, ground rules must be laid down, particularly the scope and limitation of the interview. Example, a wife of a prominent politician who was attending a theater festival consented to an interview provided that the question should be restricted to her interest in the theater and the arts. Fifth, the data gathered in the interview should be reviewed and clarified for accuracy.
The interviewee. The interviewee should likewise prepare for the interview if he wants to contribute substantially to the success of the interview. The first one, he should know the purpose of the interview except in the cases where the purpose is obvious, as in interviews related to jobs, scholarships, or loans. Second is, he should know the scope and limitation of the interview, the kinds of information he is expected to give. He should be prepared to present such information, perhaps with visual aid. And lastly, he should be open-minded, cooperative, helpful, and friendly. Regardless of the purpose, the interviewee should not be defensive, hostile, or evasive in answering questions because the interviewer may get an unfavorable impression.